I remember looking at our children in the hospital and I'm like, wait a minute, I get to take this thing home with me? You're giving it to me? Like, what am I supposed to do?
Life is like a roller coaster, but it's so much better when we go through it together. Welcome to the Candace Cameron Bure Podcast. This podcast isn't about me. I've made it for you, and I'm here to share open conversations with my friends about life's challenges, celebrations, and everything in between. Season 7 of the podcast starts now, and it's all about becoming better parents, raising emotionally and healthy kids. Now, hold up for those of you who say, I don't have kids. And I know you might be tempted to think that this season is not for you, but may I suggest that you stay tuned in, because you might find that these conversations are valuable within many of your relationships with your adult parents, with your nieces and nephews, with your students, or even as a friend who wants to offer some solid, sound advice. My guest co-hosts this season are Dr. Josh and Christi Straub. Josh and Christi lead Famous at Home, a company coaching families and leaders to build emotional awareness and deeper relational connection. Their Famous at Home podcast has had more than 4 million downloads, and they lead discipleship and coaching cohorts for men and women, and co-write children's books, including What Am I Feeling? What Do I Do with Worry? And What Do I Do with Anger? To help parents foster emotional awareness in kids. Their latest book is called Famous at Home, and it's what we'll be talking about during this season. Josh and Christi, welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have you. You know, this season is all about becoming better parents.
Mm-hmm. I know, right?
Just that in itself, I gotta take a deep breath. But it's about growing emotionally and spiritually, and having those things be healthy within your family.
Yeah, that's our heart. Our heart is, I want to be able to look back on my life and see that my children weren't just emotionally healthy, but also spiritually healthy. Mm-hmm. But, as Peter Scazzaro writes, that those two go hand in hand, that you can only be as spiritually mature as you are emotionally mature. And I think that it's really, really important that we foster that emotional awareness in kids from a very early age. And that's really been our heart, is to do that. But it came out of some really rough early years. And I think that's really where
we're going to talk
kind of how this all started for us. Is it really is part of our story.
That's so great. Well, we talked all about emotional health last season with Jenny Allen. So now I'm really excited that this season we're going to focus on kids' emotional health and parents' emotional health, and that specifically. And during our season last season, we had so many questions that came in from our listeners, and a lot of them were specifically about kids and about parenting. So I'm so happy that we're going to be able to tackle a lot of those questions and all of the incredible wisdom and information that you guys have.
Well, and it makes sense too, because I genuinely think that parenting is the most guilt-ridden, shaming role on the planet. I mean, you can't be a parent for more than 5 seconds to realize that. I mean, you get your child. I remember looking at our children, in the hospital, and I'm like, wait a minute, I get to take this thing home with me? You're giving it to me? Like, what am I supposed to do? And I think from that very spot, you can't even, there's so many controversial things out there, and there's so many quote unquote experts, but you can't even leave the hospital before you have to make a decision about whether or not you're going to immunize your child. And we all know what that debate's like today. You get them home and it's like, do we spank or do we not spank? Do we breastfeed? Do we bottle feed? Do we co-sleep? Do we not co-sleep? Do we do timeouts? Oh no, experts today say we should do time-ins. Like, wait a minute, what is time-ins? And then I didn't even get into BPA-free products, gluten-free diets and the like. And you're so overwhelmed.
Like, I'm tired just listening to you.
I am too.
It's like, what do I do?
In me shutting down.
This sounds so Gen X of me, but I'm like, can't we just go back to the days when like just come home when the streetlights turn on? It's as simple as that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's what we want to start with today, is just going, if you're listening to this episode right now, there's a good chance you have felt exhausted, shamed, overwhelmed, and you're probably in that spot now. And we just want to say we see.
Yeah. And I think that's like the conversation, what you just pivoted there too, because we focus so much on the kids and it becomes all this energy in us goes toward them. And I think that's what this whole season, to actually turn a little bit about that back toward the mom, toward dad, and realize there's a reason we're so tired and you matter too. And caring for your emotional health, your spiritual health, like this is probably the most important work we can do as parents. And to sort of flip the script a little bit.
Before we dive into some stuff, can you tell me all about your family?
Yeah.
Tell me about your kids. Tell me
Yeah.
some stories. I want everyone listening and watching to really get to know you guys.
We love them so much. So we have 3 kids. Landon is 12, Kennedy's 10, and Micah's 4. And there is there's a whole lot of reasons for the age gap between those two. Those were the hardest years, probably, when Landon and Kennedy were first, like those early years.
It was like God humbled us in the very thing that he called us to, so we wouldn't pull our britches up too high and act like we had it all together.
Yeah.
Like those early years were pretty.
Oh, it was, I called it like hitting the bottom rung of life. And I didn't even know what that meant. It's just, that's what it felt like. Like I was just the worst version of me that I'd ever been. And I realized
when your kids were young.
Yeah.
The first 2. So the 12,
Yeah.
12, 10, and 4, the age gap is there for a reason.
Yeah.
We actually thought we were done after the first 2.
Yeah. I really thought, because
it was so difficult in those first 2 years, colic, acid reflux, things, stomach allergies, things we couldn't figure out. Christy couldn't breastfeed, which added insult to injury.
It was just this, almost like, I look back now, it was like this perfect storm of like, you're not sleeping. I felt totally incompetent as a mom. Like I thought it would become naturally. Like I thought, you see other people, it's like, surely God just put this innate thing in us, and I do believe it's true, but I think the voices of culture make you feel so insecure. And so I doubted every decision I made. And I'm looking at all these other moms around me like, oh, okay, so that's what we do. We buy this, or we do this schedule, or like, it was like just learning through osmosis around me and not actually depending on the Holy Spirit inside of me, as a follower of Jesus. I don't think I realized I could trust him to tell me what I needed to know for my kids. So I was constantly looking outward for someone to tell me, what do you do? How do you survive? How do I do this well? And I will never forget thinking of like an early story when, and it was Landon was learning to eat solid foods.
And he's our oldest.
So this is like the first round. And I remember being, I can see the whole image right now. I was in a baggy, like volleyball. I played volleyball in a t-shirt. I was covered in spackled, pureed banana and sweet potato because I was teaching him how to eat solid foods. My hair's in a ponytail. I have no makeup on. I'm wearing these like big baggy sweatpants. Just feeling like, when's the last time I showered? I don't know. You just feel disgusting, but also trying so hard to give my best to this little boy who can't eat solid foods. And Josh walks in after a day of, meeting great people. And he smells like a latte because he'd been working in a coffee shop. And that sound was like,
smells like a latte.
It wafted in.
Yes. And you're like, I'm covered in banana. And you smell like this amazing latte.
This is it. You're getting the visual. Okay. And it was like, I wanted so bad, like, I'm sure this like peaceful coffee shop, that he's just spent his day at. And he's comes in wafting the smell of the latte and telling me all these exciting projects he's working on and all these like great people he'd met with that day. And it was like something in me just broke. And I just started weeping in the middle of the kitchen, like holding the little plastic spoon. And I looked at him and the only words I could say was, why don't you ever ask me about what's going on in my heart? And it was like this moment of clarity, but also like realizing like how lost I felt, how hidden I felt. I felt stuck at home, even though I was honored to be able to stay home.
Yep.
And yet I felt all of these things that like God had put in me to do in life were just being hidden away.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I've amounted to, is spackled banana and sweet potato. And that's really how those early years felt. And I've struggled, I think.
I relate to that so
yeah, tell me,
very much.
You've lived you worked from young and then you went home and raised your kids. So what was that like for you?
Right. So I went from this pretty robust career since I was 5 until I was 22. And then when I had Natasha at 22, it was like no more working, thrown into motherhood, which I very much wanted.
Right.
And was so happy to be a mom. But in my mind, I always thought, oh, I'm going to be a working mom my whole life. And so as soon as I have the baby, as soon as I get back in shape, I'm going to be auditioning. I'll still be working. And God very quickly changed my heart on that because I just realized after a few weeks of traveling to LA, auditioning, missing putting Natasha down for bed, missing the bath time, missing her during the day. I was like, I just became a mom. And now I'm not even going to see her experience all of just the day to day. And that's what happens. You know, you have a plan, especially when you're young, but even whatever age you have a child at, you have a plan. And then God goes, no, I'm going to show you the plan.
Yeah. Right.
So that's what happened. So he changed my heart and I was like, oh, I don't think I want to work anymore. I think I want to take a pause and be home with Natasha. And yet, it was by choice. Yeah. And yet, it was so difficult because there were so many days that I felt just how you described. I felt very unseen. I felt like my value wasn't like worthy of all the talents God had given me, that they were being hidden. And as much as I, again, loved being with my kids, it also became a part of me that had to learn how to be selfless because I had been selfish my whole life. I'd only thought about myself, my career, my marriage, my everything. And now I'm like, I have a child and now my child comes first and I want to be here, but this is just weird. Like, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah. And I think what's wild about that is, you know, as our kids get older, we want to help them find who they are. What's God created them to be? Who's he created? What's their gifts? What's their strengths? What's their talents? And then yet here we are, and I'm hearing you two as moms wrestling, when I see this all the time, wrestling with your own identity. It's like, oh my goodness, this is what God's called me to do. And I've been doing it, but now I'm sitting here and I'm hidden and I don't feel seen. And I think having the confidence of stepping in and realizing this is a beautiful role. This is I mean, we're shepherding the hearts of children and realizing that. And so I think if you're a parent in the middle of this right now, just to encourage you, you are seen. He sees us. Like, that is what's so, I think it'd be very difficult. But I remember, I just want to go to this for a second because I had to start as a husband. You know, I walk into this moment where Christi's like, why don't you ever ask me what's on my heart? This is where I start to feel it. And I'm going, whoa, wait a second. Do we have an issue going on here? Do we have what is happening? Because that's the first time that I think you realized how stuck you felt.
Oh, it just came out. And I don't think I even knew it was in there.
Yeah.
Because I was doing the thing that everyone else did. And you're like, okay, I'll just do it. Like, surely. Yeah.
And I just want to give a shout out too, because it was hard for me because I felt like I was doing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this publicly, I felt like I was doing everything I possibly could. I'm up with the kids at night. Like, I am on there. Yeah. And so I just want to give a shout out to single parents and solo parents right now, because it is difficult. Yes. It was difficult for us with two of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need help. And I think just the ability to ask for help.
Yeah.
If you need it. And just, I have so much respect for single and solo parents today, seeing our own journey.
Yeah.
In that season, for me, I was looking back at this thing and I was going, okay, parenting, I understand it's difficult. It's going to be difficult, but could it be simpler? You know, all of this stuff that's going on in our culture, all the quote unquote parenting experts, there's thousands of books on parenting. And it's like, what could really simplify? Like, if I'm on my rocking chair, 80 years old, and I'm watching my grandchildren run around, what will have really mattered when I look back? Because I know you and I have had conversations here where it's like, you don't even remember some of those early years. Like, it gets difficult to remember some of that.
Yeah, it really does.
And it's like,
in prepping for this season, I kept thinking to myself, kept going back to think of stories and when they were younger, and just like childbirth, you know, childbirth can be extremely painful. I mean, there lots of things can go on during childbirth, but yet, as hard as it is, God somehow just erases it. And then you're like, hey, I'm ready for number 2. I'm ready for number 3.
Otherwise there would be no number 2 or no number 3.
And I kind of feel the same way during the younger years, but even different seasons, there's things that vividly will stand out to me during seasons, but really going back, and you know, my oldest is 25 years old. I'm like, man, I don't remember a lot of the things when they were really young. I think I remember the traumatic things because trauma kind of sticks with me. But the day to day, I'm like, I think God just kind of like moves your memory along.
The grace. His grace in some ways.
But prepare for the next season.
How cool is that though? I'm just thinking, as you just said that, for every parent who's like in the middle of it right now, and everything feels so significant. Like every decision, everything feels so
is significant at that moment.
Right.
And yet now being ahead of the game, like ahead of you guys. I mean, there's things I'm thinking about with my kids in high school that I was like, I don't think we're going to get through this. We're not going to get through this. And now I sit and I just laugh at it. And it's a great story that I get to tell over dinner with other parents. Like, don't worry about it. Trust me, you guys will make it through. Like, they'll get through it. It's going to happen. You're fine. And every parent is like, I need to hear that. Are you sure? And I go, I was in the same place that you were. I felt the same way. I didn't know if we were going to take another step the next day. And yet I'm sitting here laughing about it now.
Yeah, it's so good.
Like the freedom, I think, though, that gives to people to realize the thing. Like I can look back at my moment in the middle of the kitchen floor. Like I thought my whole life was ending. Like it felt so dramatic and so big to me in the moment. And that's not to minimize the things that really do feel big, and they are in the moment, but they are passing. And I think that's if anything, we've realized seeing things from a higher view, like you and God says, like, come up here, like come up high, like see from where I see. I think that is what I've learned has helped me the most to not hyper focus on the minuscule and the minute, but to see it from a higher place.
And I think that's what's helped me when I went into the research and I started looking at like, what will matter. If I'm sitting on my rocking chair, what will matter? And I scoured the research because I'm kind of a nerd that way. And what I found was that every single major outcome that we would desire in our children, whether that be in the moment, good grades, extracurricular activities, things like that. But even in the long run, like your kids now at the age that they're at, I'm looking and I'm going, okay, these are the things I want. I want them to have amazing friendships. I want them to have friendships that people they love and trust and they can stay connected to. I want them to get married, stay married, and actually enjoy their marriage, like high marital satisfaction. I want them to have a career that they love and that they stick to, and that where they're living out of their gifts and their strengths and their talents. I want them to have a faith that sticks. All of these outcomes linked back to this one phrase called emotional safety. And I think that's really, and so when Christi's in these moments, and we'll get into emotional safety and what does that look like, but when Christi's in these moments, or I'm stuck in these moments, it was a way to simplify, not that it makes it any easier, but it was a way for us to simplify kind of what you're talking about over dinner. Like, guys, this is going to be, it was the filter for us to go, we just have to be safe for our kids. We just have to create an environment and a culture, like the discipline issues, the posture, it's the posture from which we parent, not the techniques that matters most. That's what we talk about. And that posture is what we want to strengthen.
Hey, Hey, this week, I think you should go to goodranchers.com and shop their prime deals on American meats. Trust me, you don't want to miss these savings for America's best meat delivered to your door. For only 1 week, Good Ranchers is offering you the chance to save up to $150 when you subscribe to their 100% American meat subscription service. Imagine having top quality, 100% American beef, chicken, pork, and wild-caught seafood delivered right to your door, saving you up to $150 during this special Prime Week promotion. Good Ranchers sources all of their meat from local U.S. farms, so you're getting the best of the best. No antibiotics, no added hormones, just pure, delicious meat you can trust. And with their prime deals, you're getting incredible savings and supporting American farmers with transparency you won't find at the grocery store. And even better, check this out. For every order, Good Ranchers donates to Paralyzed Veterans of America. How awesome is that? So if you value local, trustworthy, and high-quality food, now is the perfect time to join the Good Ranchers family. Head over to goodranchers.com and subscribe to any box to unlock their executive Prime Week savings. These Prime deals are only available for 1 week. Remember, that's goodranchers.com. No code needed. Just subscribe to unlock up to $150 in savings and treat yourself to the best meat America has to offer. Your taste buds, your wallet, and American Ranchers will thank you. Goodranchers.com. American meat delivered. That's great. And by safety, I want to clarify, you don't mean creating a bubble for your family.
Right.
So they're so protected that they, that nothing from the outside world is poking at them. You're not talking about a safety bubble like that. You're talking about, well, tell me exactly.
Well, no, and emotional safety, I think, is really important to describe that, because I want my kids to be resourceful. I want them to be responsible. They're going to step out into the world and they're going to be met with all kinds of stuff flying at them. And I want them to be resilient. I want them to be able, so if we're protecting them, that's actually not safe for my children. My children, what's safe for my children is that they learn to be emotionally resilient. That they learn to be able to tackle all of the stuff that's coming at them in the world around them. And we can get into more of that as we enter into this. But the way that I say posture is techniques. We get so hyper-focused, I think, in the moment as a parent on the techniques. As my discipline, what my discipline techniques, what are we doing with screen time? What are we doing, we're so busy. We want to sign our kids up for this activity and that activity, but yet we're so busy and we're running ragged and we can't think of it. It's looking back and going, okay, one technique that works on one child might not work on a different child.
Right.
And one technique that works on one child today might not work on that child tomorrow. Techniques will always come and go. But no matter the age of our children, whether they're 2, they're 12, they're 22, 25, 52, you have adult children that are older. The posture from which we parent should never change. And that posture of being safe for our children, where they feel heard, they feel understood, where they feel seen.
Okay.
And it doesn't mean that we're not going to discipline our children. It doesn't mean that we're not going to challenge our children. But what it does mean is that they're going to feel supported in that process. They're going to feel supported. They're going to feel seen. They're going to feel championed. That's really what the posture is all about. We can get more into that, but that's that when I started looking at data, I was going, okay, wait a minute, this, Christi laying on the floor, okay, now what that means for me as a husband is I've got to be safe for her in this moment. And in that moment, I'll be very honest, I didn't know what to do. So I just held her.
Yeah, what happened in that moment?
I held her. I gave her a hug and I'm like, are you a rose or a thorn right now? Should I, are you too prickly? Am I allowed to hug you?
Yeah.
Or?
He did. He just hugged me. He came up and he just hugged me and I just wept. And it was like, I literally didn't need him to say anything. I just needed see me, someone see me. I didn't even know I needed to be seen until that very moment, but I'm like, someone see me. And he just held me. And then, it was maybe a week or so later that he went.
This is fascinating. Yeah.
He went to, John Townsend has been a good friend and mentor of Josh's for a lot of years. And he was like, I have this leadership thing And I know this is not going to sound like the right timing because Christy's like falling apart, but he was like, Christy, if you just let him come for like a week, I promise this is going to like benefit your marriage, your family. And I was like, okay, John, like I'm trusting you. And he went for a week and he came back with like, he was different. And this was a leadership thing, but it was the same principles that we use to lead people in businesses. This is how we lead kids. This is how we lead in a family.
Wow.
Yeah. What I learned at that retreat was great leaders don't just engage in content-based conversations. So it's not just about the business of the day. Hey, we took the kids here, we took the kids there. It's great leaders are able to engage in process-based conversation. So in other words, what am I feeling about the business stuff? We go a layer deeper. And I realized because we're in this season that I needed, if I was going to be a great leader, I had to lead first with my wife. And so I came home and I said, honey, here's what I'd love to do. And we call it 15 minutes a day, but I said, I would just love to take 15 minutes a day. And sometimes it's 2 minutes, sometimes it's 5. It's just what we call it. But I would just love to hear what is one, she said, why don't you ever ask me what's going on in my heart? And I said, what is one positive emotion that you felt today? I just want to hear one. You don't even have to go into detail. I just want, did you feel brave? Did you feel happy? Did you feel content? Did you feel excited? Did you feel seen? And then I want to know one uncomfortable emotion you had today. Were you jealous, embarrassed, sad, angry, frustrated? What was one uncomfortable one? And it's not my job to fix it. It's just my job to listen and hear what's going on in her heart. You know, the Bible says to guard your heart is the wellspring of life. And I think that what we want to do is what emotional safety is the ability to enter into our children's heart, enter into our spouse's heart, and just be able to see what is going on in the heart. And so we that's where we started to label emotion, was with one another. And you pass that on to your children. It's beautiful.
Yeah, which leads me into so many questions because I'm thinking about all the people listening saying, and let's assume that there the people listening are married. Okay, husband and wife.
Yeah.
So what about the woman that's like, my husband would never ask me that. The fact that you have a husband that's willing to go to a leadership conference and learn this and then apply the principles once he gets home. How does, and this might be for a later episode when we deep dive into this, but that is where I'm going. So could you just offer just to button that up, like some sort of advice to the woman that says, I don't know that my husband's ever asked me how I'm feeling and how do I approach that? Yeah.
And just to normalize that, like that would be very uncommon for them to ask. I think that's just not normal. Like I didn't even grow up in a home where that was like that consciously talked about. Like we talked about emotion, I think. Like it wasn't, I don't feel like it was not allowed, but it wasn't like diving into emotion.
I think the go-to is what's your high or low of the day, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what's your favorite or,
you ask her on the dinner table. And so but often that's still content based. Like, oh, my high was, I did this. So what I've found is super helpful as a mom is doing it with my kids first. Because it's just modeled in the home. And so we wrote a book called What Am I Feeling, which just has this like pull out feelings chart. And we can talk about that more in a later episode. But most of us did not grow up even knowing how to use emotion language or even knowing how to label emotion. Like, what am I feeling? Most women that I get to sit with are like, I just feel overwhelmed, right? Like overwhelmed is just like sort of the general blanket over because I don't know. It's so confusing in there. I don't know what's going on. And that's okay. And that's the point of asking one another because we're trying to just dip into there just a little bit. Like, what is going on today? So doing it with your kids first is so helpful because A, they're more connected than we are. We've become layers of a whole bunch of stuff. They don't have all that. So asking them and just sort of making that language in your home, be like, what are you noticing today? Like, how are you feeling? Is there something that's like positive? Is there something that feels a little bit uncomfortable? And see what comes up. And this sweet wife who's listening, feels like the husband he's absorbing it just because it's happening. It probably, and so this takes a while. And I want to say that too. Like, I don't like, this is going to be super awkward at first, especially when that's not your normal. And that's totally fine. But it's just like we dip our toes in just a little bit at a time and it becomes a little more normal.
And I will say this too, if you're listening, get your if you're a wife listening, get your husbands to listen to this episode and just engage this, because I think what's important. The other thing too is I would say don't shame. Like you said, we didn't grow up learning this stuff. I hear from men all the time saying, my dad didn't lead me in this. My mom didn't lead, like we didn't learn these things. And it's not to shame our parents that went before us. I think they did the best that they could with us. Right. But it's looking at, okay, what were we given and how can we level up what we were already given? Yeah. And what we do is we level that up. But if we're shaming one another in the home already, that's not safe. That's not emotionally safe. But looking at it and having a conversation and just going, look, I understand you weren't given this. I wasn't given this. But what if we engage this together? What if we did this together? And I know it's going to feel clunky for a while. I do this with Joint Special Operations Command. I help men who are trained to capture or kill, that's their job, on the battlefield, to talk about their emotions. So, because the very thing that they are trained to turn off to survive when they go to the battlefield is the very thing they have to turn back on to survive when they get back home. And these guys are, when they learn how to do it, they're all in because they just want to be the best at everything, right? And so I would say it's not beyond us to be able to do this. It really is. But what we can't feel is shamed that we haven't done it, because it's just not been in our vocabulary. It's not been something we've known. And so to just look and go, I think the first thing that I always try to do is I look at Christi and say, I'm really sorry. I didn't know. This is more of a omission. It's not like I tried to do this against you. I just didn't know. But will you walk alongside me and show me how I'm doing in the process?
Which makes me think of a question.
And walk together.
Like, is that something that was like in your home growing up? Was emotion talked about?
It was later in my childhood. So it was more emotionally closed off when I was younger. Okay. And remember that, and my parents, great people, love them. Yeah. Awesome. But like when I was younger, I remember my dad, if he got upset, it would be angry, and he would kind of flip the lid quick. Yeah. But that was those were some of the basis of the issues. And then when my parents started going to church, that's when I was 12 years old. That's when we were introduced to God and Jesus and all of that. And then my parents started working on their marriage. Then that affected how they were parenting us, of course, naturally. Wow. So the changes that I saw in my dad and my mom, they trickled down. So then it was like we saw my dad, and he wasn't really a super hothead, but you saw it happen when he'd get mad and he would kind of yell and this and that. And then you could see him like take the deep breath and say, okay, let's, and he was putting all the tools in place that he was learning. And then it became this place where my parents basically kind of had therapy, like in the living room with us kind of around. So they would show us and model what it was like to have those conversations without arguing, without yelling. And then they would have other couples that would come over that might be, when their marriage got healthy, they would then invite other couples to just help talk it out with them. My dad's a great conversationalist. So we saw a lot of that modeled, but it was like pre-12 years old, post-12 years old.
Yeah. Oh, that's wild. That's really cool though. And it's really cool to hear too, because what I think that you're saying, and I want to make sure I share this with people, it's never too late. Right. I think so often parents are like, oh, I feel like I've messed up my kids. No, it's never too late to repair. Yeah. And
I think to add, like, you're just adding new tools into your home, like into your life, right? Like you're not fixed. None of us are stuck the way we are. Like what your parents did. I just think that's such a beautiful story of, and what you said so many times, modeling. They modeled it for you, and they didn't model perfection. They modeled repair. They modeled healing, and that's what we all get to do. Yeah, that's so.
And I want to say that too, because I think this is so important for us in this episode to set this from the outset. Is that this emotional safety thing as we go on throughout this season can sound very, oh my word, I've been so emotionally unsafe. I don't feel like I don't even want to listen to the next episode because I just am going to feel shame just listening to this. John Gottman, who's kind of the preeminent marital researcher, he also studied emotion coaching children. And one of the things that he found is that even if you get this emotion coaching thing right just 2 out of 5 times, you can still get the outcomes you desire in your kids. Listen, even Shaq shot better than 40% from the free throw line. Like, this is, you're going to mess up. It's doable. You're going to mess up. You're human. You're going to yell. You're going to say things you regret. You are going to mess it up as a parent. And you're okay to do that 3 out of 5 times. Why? Gottman found that a word called repair is the ultimate of relationships. Do you know what the Bible calls it? Forgiveness. And Jesus tells us to practice it a lot. And so it's the ability of us as parents, when we wrong our kids, to be able to enter into their world and apologize for our specific offense. And what we do when we do that is we show our children, number 1, that we're not perfect. Number 2, that we don't expect them to be perfect. But number 3, what we do is we model for them how to make it right when we're not. And I think that is the most beautiful illustration of, and our friend Jeannie Cunnion, one of the things that she mentioned to us, she has boys, and she said there'd be times where she would wrong her boys and she would ask them for forgiveness. And she said then what she would do is she would take them, she would say, now I need to ask Jesus for forgiveness. Is it okay would you go with me in prayer as I ask Jesus for forgiveness?
Oh, that's beautiful.
And the repair that does when I've done it with my kids, it is just it brings everybody down. Yeah. And it corrects and it shows our children that we're imperfect humans following Jesus too, who's repairing our souls along the journey. And I think as we get to invite our kids on that, it just takes a whole lot of pressure off.
Oh, yeah. I feel like an exhale. So good. Yeah.
Well, let's go to a couple of listener questions because we've got
great.
some really great ones. And I'm excited to have you guys here to really help flesh through some answers, because I feel like there's a lot of questions this season that deserve an expert answer and not just Candace's opinion.
Can we just do this? I do not like the word expert at all. We are fellow humans traveling along this journey.
Yeah.
Well, experienced.
There you go. Educated. Maybe educated. Yeah. Okay. But we're just as messed up.
Just good. I get that. Okay. So our first question is from Kara. Maybe it's Kara, but we'll say Kara. My son and I are both very passionate people. He's only 5 and he feels very big emotions all the time. So much so that at times we can really butt heads and play emotional chicken with each other. When we lock this way, I can easily find myself getting angry with him because I feel like he's disobeying when really he may be feeling afraid or unsettled. I know that love over anger wins every time, but there are moments I still struggle with calming myself down in order to hear him out. Do you have any tips or techniques that I or my son could do together in order to reconnect more?
Oh, it's so good. I would just say as a parent, first of all, very insightful question and insightful of yourself to realize that you're matching the amygdala. We'll talk about that later in the season, but it's like you're matching his overwhelm. And she said this in there, but it's the ability to enter into his world and see what is going on underneath his anger. Is he sad? Is he, what is going on? But she's saying, whoa, wait a minute. I match his heightened level of anger. And so therefore, I don't know that I have the ability to get in there and see. And I just think it's beautiful for her to be able to see that. I think that's step number 1 is that awareness. But then number 2, to be able to take the lead and to be able to take a deep breath and model, just like we were talking about with forgiveness, to model for him how to help him calm himself down. And I know I'm going to toss this to you a little bit because I think you've got some very practical ways to do
this relationship, Kara, sounds like me and Natasha.
Wow.
Two just very,
it's me and Landon.
Can be hot-headed, can be stubborn, can be
you and Landon,
I wonder if this is her firstborn. This is because Landon's my firstborn. And there's it's like, I think that's interesting because it's like, that's not the same with the other kids for me, but it is with Landon and we do this. So I would take it to a super practical level because especially a 5-year-old boy, there's a whole lot in the brain that's not developed yet. But so if you're not watching this on YouTube, if you're just listening, this is so practical and this will help. I hope as tools for so many parents. If you take your right hand and you stick it just between your arm, so in basically your left armpit between your side body and your arm, and then you take your left hand and you put it on your right shoulder. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? I just exhaled. Candace just exhaled. They call it a containment hug. And it's just what we're basically doing here is we're just reconnecting back to our actual body that God made us. And because when we spin off into crazy emotion and anger, like we are not even in our body anymore. And this is also protecting all the vital organs. So it is a very comforting posture for the body. But this is like really practical ways that we can model for our kids how we settle ourselves so that then they can learn how to do it too. Another would just be, you basically just take the ear and pull it down and out. And this will trigger other places. This is called the vagus nerve, but it triggers your whole nervous system to move it.
How have I never known this?
I know. We can do lots of these. We'll do like a couple every episode because I think
do this every day.
Oh, yeah.
This is in my work life.
Yeah.
Let me pull my ear down and out.
Like there's a sigh from me. So it just is there. Yeah. There you go. And the whole body responds. And this is so, it's not just for our kids, it's for all of us. But these are tools I wish I had known like so many years ago. And they're really beautiful ways that we model for our kids, just like we're all saying, I am not perfect. I will fly off the handle. And yet I know that mom needs to calm down right now. And I'd love if you want to join me, and because we mirror one another. And so sweet little boy can help mirror his mama.
Yeah. And I would just say that forgiveness piece, that if you do, 3 out of 5 times you're gonna fly off the handle with your child, is to once you're calm, is to apologize and to make it right, and to say, I'm your parent. I should not model that, and I need to do a better job.
But I'm a work in progress too.
I'm a work in
just
progress
like you.
too.
Yeah,
right.
That's the beauty.
Absolutely right.
That's good.
Yeah.
All these memories are flooding back. Okay,
That's great.
let's go to question.
We're finding them all.
Yes,
there they are.
Let's go to question number 2. This is from Francis. Are there any tools you can use to identify what emotions you're feeling? Well, yes, there are some tools which we are going to have for you at Candace.com. And there's the Healthy Home Guide. Can you guys explain what that is?
Yeah. So we have a feelings chart that you can identify. And the beautiful part about that is, so there's very practical tools in there for you to be able to use for yourself, but then also for your children to be able to identify what is an emotion that I'm feeling and what is really going on. There's a story that we have with our children where Kennedy was at a friend's house and she was playing with 2 other girls, and we came home that day and she was just very defiant. She was not, she was just she's our sweet girl, but she was out of character. And what was fascinating about it is I remember being the parent who was, knock it off, stop it. You just need to quit it right now. You know better than this. And of course we're reacting out of, do this. And later that night, as Christy was tucking her into bed, she looked at her and she said, honey, what are you feeling right now? And she pulls out the feelings chart, and Kennedy's little finger went to angry. And she said, are you feeling anything else? And then her little finger went to sad and then embarrassed. And Christy said, honey, did something happen today that maybe made you feel that way? And Kennedy said that the other 2 friends that she was playing with wanted to play by themselves. And they went into the one girl's bedroom and locked themselves in. And Kennedy was left in the hall by herself. And her disobedience came out in embarrassment. But the feelings chart was a real great opportunity for Christy to be able to enter into Kennedy's world and be able to go, okay, what's going on behind the anger? And so there in that Healthy Home Guide, you can find the feelings chart. And we just to increase your emotional vocabulary and your children's emotional vocabulary, we really encourage a feelings chart. Put it in your refrigerator, put it in your house somewhere where you can use it as a tool on an ongoing basis, not just for your kids, but for yourself as well.
That sounds great. I'm so excited about our season.
Me too.
I've been waiting for this one for a long time. So I know our listeners are going to love it. We have something very special for you. We're calling it the Healthy Home Guide, and it's adapted from Josh and Christi's book, Famous at Home. You'll learn all about understanding emotions in your home and helping kids name their feelings. So go to Candace.com to find the link, and it's also in our show notes. And you'll also find a link to their book, Famous at Home, which is what our conversation this season is based on. Okay, guys, until next time, be grateful all day, every day. If you value local, trustworthy, and high-quality food, now is the perfect time to join the Good Ranchers family. I was thrilled when my first Good Ranchers box showed up and it was all still perfectly frozen. And what I really love about Good Ranchers is their commitment to transparency. They believe you have the right to know exactly what's in your food. I mean, hello. And they are also amazing supporters of this show. Good Ranchers sources all of their meat from local U.S. farms, so you're getting the best of the best. No antibiotics, no added hormones, just pure, delicious meat you can trust. And do you ever notice when you're in the store, when you buy chicken or beef, it costs more and the portions way less every time you buy it? But imagine having top quality, 100% American beef, chicken, pork, and wild-caught seafood delivered right to your door. Just head over to GoodRanchers.com and subscribe to any box to unlock savings. Good Ranchers is where you can get 100% USA grown meat you can trust that's tender and full of flavor every single time. With meat prices continuing to go up and the quality at the store going down, Good Ranchers can save you hundreds. Your taste buds, your wallet, and local ranchers will thank you. GoodRanchers.com, American meat delivered. Hey friends, thanks for watching this. Would you give a thumbs up if you liked this conversation and tell me in the comments what was most helpful? Oh, and don't forget to subscribe. CandyRock Entertainment, all rights reserved.